For another LinkedIn Live. My name is Nicole East, for those of you who don't know me, and I am the CEO of Lux Elite Yachts. So many yacht enthusiasts today say that the best days of their yacht life are the day they buy the yacht and the day they sell the yacht. And there's truth to that statement because many yacht owners don't realize the cost of yacht ownership until they're in it. So let's take a look at my client David, for example. Him and his wife had always dreamed of owning a yacht. They wanted to sail the ocean together after retirement, exploring the world. This was something they had talked about for many years. When the time finally came, David bought his dream yacht. He was so excited for the adventures ahead, but shortly after, life took an unexpected turn. His wife's health declined, and his retirement had to be put on hold. Meanwhile, the yacht expenses started to pile up. He realized he was spending more time paying for the yacht than he was actually enjoying it. What was once his dream was now a major financial burden. So that's when David actually reached out to me. He didn't want to give up his dream, but he also couldn't justify the ongoing costs of a yacht sitting idle. And so that conversation was actually the inspiration behind our Lux Syndicate model. So this model allows owners to sell 50% or more of their shares, 50% or more of their yacht, and we take over the management, the logistics, and all of the operations. David was able to immediately free up 50% of his capital and the expenses for the same amount. It wasn't that David wanted to stop owning the yacht. In fact, it was actually the opposite. He wanted to continue living his lifelong dream, but just with the peace of mind that knowing his yacht wasn't sitting idle and completely draining his finances. David's story isn't unique. This is something that I hear all the time. And what it does is it actually highlights one of the biggest myths in yachting, and that is that buying the yacht is the biggest expense. But in reality, the purchase price is just the beginning. Once you own the yacht, that's when the real costs start to show up. So I'd like to do a quick reality check about what a yacht really costs. So on average, a yacht costs about 10 to 20% of the purchase price every single year just to own and operate it. So if you were to purchase a $10 million yacht, for example, that yacht is going to cost you between $1 and $2 million annually, even if you never take it out on the water. So let's break this down with a real example. So we have a 100-foot Majesty in our fleet. This yacht is valued at $6 million. This is our dual region yacht. So it operates in the winter months in the Bahamas and the summer months in the northeastern seaboard. This yacht carries a crew of 5 full-time staff and operates under charter in the winter months. Now, charter is great because it adds additional revenue, but it also adds additional operating costs. So here's what ownership beyond the purchase price would look like on this Majesty. So first, we've got our legal setup and closing process. So this is going to be things like your sea trial, your inspection, your registration, your flagging, your charter permits, charter classifications, And also, of course, the creation of the structure, so probably an LLC or an SPV, special purpose vehicle. Now, these costs aren't glamorous, but it's part of your initial purchase. This initial setup can easily run you into the tens of thousands of dollars. Then you have your ongoing bookkeeping, accounting, and tax filing. Just like any other asset of this class, the financial side must be professionally managed. So next up is our insurance. For a $6 million yacht that is active in 2 regions, the annual insurance can easily run you in excess of $100,000 annually. So then there's your dockage, your marine fees. Premium marinas in the Bahamas, as well as the Hamptons, are not cheap. So between docking and relocation seasonally, you're easily looking at $100,000 per year. So then there's, of course, your crew. So if you have a team of 5, which would be your captain, your engineer, and your interior staff, this is going to represent one of the most biggest costs. Once you've accounted for all of the salaries and benefits, that alone can run you between $250,000 and $350,000 annually. So finally, we have our maintenance and upkeep. Routine cleaning, mechanical services, and safety checks, and of course, corrective maintenance if anything were to go wrong. This is all going to add up for a vessel of this size. This could actually mean an additional $200,000 to $300,000 per year. So by the time you add everything up, so the maintenance, the crew, the insurance, marine fees, and management, your $6 million yacht can cost you between $800,000 and $1 million every single year just to own and operate it. Now, none of this is meant to discourage ownership. It's really about understanding what are you signing up for? Because yacht ownership isn't just about buying the vessel. This is about sustaining a lifestyle that requires time, capital, and coordination. So this is exactly where co-ownership can change the game. So this is delivering the same yacht, the same luxury experience, and the same pride of ownership, but with shared cost, professional management, and none of the headaches. So instead of paying $1 million per year to own and operate your yacht alone, you could be paying a fraction of that while still enjoying full access and total peace of mind. So before we dive in to the live questions, I had some really great questions come in earlier this week. And honestly, they represent some of the biggest myths that I hear all the time in this industry. So I'm going to go through these myths, and then I'll open it up to you for any questions you might have. So the first myth: co-ownership means I lose control over when I can use the yacht. Well, at Lux Elite Yachts, our co-owners use a scheduling system that is very balanced and fair. So you know exactly when you're going to use your yacht months in advance. Plus, we have flexibility, and there are often additional opportunities to use it throughout the year. So rather than losing control, you're actually gaining predictability and peace of mind. So the next myth: I can't personalize or customize a co-owned yacht. So we actually encourage our owners to personalize the yacht. So we've got access to climate control, secured storage. So we ask our owners if they would like to have any of their personal effects put out on each of their visits to their yacht or each of their usage times. We will go ahead and put those out and prepare the yacht with those items each and every time. So that means everything is exactly the way you like it, not just the provisions, your favorite drinks and meals. Also, this could mean things like family photos, maybe your favorite pillow, so it feels like home. So when you step on board, it doesn't feel like you're sharing. This feels like your yacht every single time. So the next myth is co-ownership is basically a timeshare. So I hear this one a lot. So by definition, timeshare is the right to use something. And then at the end, you are left with nothing. With co-ownership, you actually own legal ownership of the yacht. So when we sell the yacht after your ownership term, you receive your equity portion from the sale proceeds. With the timeshare, there's nothing to sell at the end of it. So the next myth is it's cheaper to charter than to co-own. So this one actually sounds very logical until you do the math. So chartering is great for occasional use, but if you're chartering multiple times per year, the cost can add up very quickly. And again, at the end, you're left with nothing. So our last LinkedIn Live was comparing co-ownership to chartering. And we used the example of our 100-foot Majesty. So if you use that particular yacht 2 weeks annually for the entire ownership period, you actually save money compared to chartering a comparable vessel. So for regular yachters, co-ownership can often be the smarter financial choice. Okay, so the next myth. I won't get the same level of service as with full ownership. So actually, most co-owned yachts are maintained to a higher standard. And here's why. Your yacht is managed by a full-time crew as well as a management team. And we are ensuring that every detail is handled between each owner's use and between chartering. So there's no such thing as an off season when things can fall behind. Every time you step on board, the yacht is in pristine condition. So instead of getting less service, you're actually getting 5-star consistency. And this is without even having to manage it yourself. So the next myth is, and this is my favorite, if I can afford a yacht, why would I share it? This isn't about the affordability. This is about efficiency. So even the wealthiest yacht owners are starting to realize that paying 100% of the cost for something that you're only using a few times a year does not make sense. And today's luxury consumers are thinking about things very differently. They're also co-owning private jets, villas, cars, and even artwork I've seen. This is about smarter ownership, not lesser ownership. So you are still going to get the luxury, the pride, and the lifestyle without the excess cost, waste, or stress. Okay, so I'd like to open this up to you, my live audience, to see if you have any questions for me today. So let me just pull this up. Okay. Sorry, I can't see this. Okay, so let me just refresh one more time here. Okay, so the first question I have, what is the biggest misconception people have about yacht co-ownership? So definitely I had spoken about this before, and it's the timeshare. Many people, when they hear the word fractional ownership or co-ownership, they assume it's a timeshare. And again, there's a major distinction. One is you actually own legal entity of the asset. So you have something that is sellable at the end of the day. So next question. Sorry, another question another misconception people have, I just thought of this, is the scheduling. People are always concerned about how the scheduling is handled. So we ensure a very balanced approach. So I'm going to get into, I think I saw another question here about the schedule. So let me just pull that up and then I'll get into that detail. So yes, here it is. How does Lux Elite handle scheduling between owners to make sure everybody gets fair and flexible access? So this is a great question. So what happens is when you are the first owner that purchases into a yacht, you get the first pick of 2 weeks that year. And then it goes to the second owner, then it goes to the third owner, then the fourth owner. We have a maximum of 4 owners per vessel. Then it continues in that process until all the weeks have been selected. Year 2, the second owner that purchased in has the first selection, and then the third, then the fourth. And that continues for the entire life cycle of the ownership group. So, and in this case, we have a 4 or 5 year exit typically on our yachts. So yeah, that would ensure if anyone so say you wanted Christmas, you will get the opportunity to be the first pick for Christmas. The other thing is, actually, sorry, I wanted to mention this for scheduling. The other thing is owners can actually switch with one another. So your concierge manager can handle that on your behalf. Because like I said earlier, there can be some flexibility where not all the owners want to use their weeks. And yes, some of our yachts offer charter, but this is an opportunity that maybe a swap between owners might make more sense. So lots of flexibility there. Okay, so next question. Is there specific financial write-offs and strategies when you co-own versus fully own? So same sort of strategies. If you are using your yacht for business purposes, so in this case, if you are an owner within one of our charter vessels, then that is a business expense. You're using it for business purposes. Now, it's important to note that it must be used more than 50% of the time to qualify for those deductions. So this can be like depreciation is one with the Big Beautiful Bill Act. You've got the bonus depreciation happening now if you're an American client. And then you've also got your expenses. So anything, insurance, your marine fees, all of that would be considered a business deduction. But remember, you also have to claim the revenue from the charter as well. So each person has a very unique tax scenario. And so we would highly recommend that you would speak with your tax professional to discuss what's going to be the best option for you. And we, of course, are happy to talk to your tax professional and help them sort out how to structure this in the best way possible. How many months per year is the yacht available? Meaning if there's a need of maintenance, crew swaps, etc. So it depends on if you own within our home port location. So this is going to be a yacht that is always in the same location year after year. So for example, that would be Chicago. And Chicago is a seasonal location. So there's only a specific season. So that one, we schedule that in more of a usage block because of the seasonal and home port. With regards to our dual region yachts, so that would be the example of the Majesty, you actually receive 8 weeks of usage per owner. So that would be 4 weeks of usage in each region. And that's because exactly what Terry said here. There's crew swaps, there's relocation swaps, and of course there's maintenance. So we're going to do the big pieces of the maintenance between the seasonal swap, but we also have to schedule regular maintenance in between owner usage. So when we come out with the annual calendar at the annual general meeting for the owners, you can see right in there that we've got predetermined blocked off weeks for maintenance. So next question, are the yachts registered as commercial? So not every yacht is registered as commercial, only the yachts that are in our charter model. So if you're not a commercially registered yacht, it's personal use only. Therefore, you wouldn't qualify for the business deductions, and we cannot charter it because, of course, it is not charter compliant. But I would say most of our yachts are commercially registered because that seems to be what the demand is from our owners. Now, even if your yacht is commercially registered and chartered, doesn't mean you as the owner during your time have to participate in the chartering. That is optional, but know that the other owners may, and that then your yacht is getting chartered regularly. Okay, so let's see. Any more questions? Sorry, I have to refresh. Okay. Oh, regarding staff, it could be an issue if one owner may not like one, might be super amazed, and like, how would that be resolved? Are the staff full-time or can they be moved around? So we have a set standard for all of our crew when we hire them. So they are put through a Lux Elite standard service expectation. Okay, so we are monitoring this at all times. You've got not only a full-time crew that we have personally trained, but we've also have a yacht manager, and that is your concierge manager. So if you have any concerns, of course, we want to hear that immediately. And we would be monitoring this at all times. And if we're finding that there is a bad apple, of course, we are going to make the best decisions on behalf of the ownership group. Remember, you are the owner. So it is important to understand you have say in your yacht. We are the third-party manager to ensure that owners don't have to work together and that we're taking that off your plate. But this is a very good question because our level of service is the most important for all of our yachts, and it's a global gold standard. I want to be clear on that as well. Okay, next question. I think I'm just looking at the time here. Here's a great question. If I already own a yacht, how does the Lux Syndicate model work for me? Can I sell a portion of my yacht? Yes. So this is exactly why we brought this in, because owners sometimes feel like the only option they actually have is to sell their yacht. But in reality, you can give up a portion of your equity, just like my client David did, and still maintain a piece of ownership and free up that capital. So you're basically selling a portion, freeing up that equity that's in your yacht, and then you're freeing up the expenses that go with it. So there's two important things to note with the syndicate model. So the first thing is three important things. We require you to give up a minimum of 50% equity for us to bring in at least 2 new owners, okay? The second thing is your yacht must be 5 years old or newer. We have a standard of the age, and that's due to maintenance and our exit strategies. And then the third thing is we require to take over the management. And that's because, of course, we need to protect the new owners coming into the ownership group. Okay. Thanks, Hal. Just looking here too. Great questions today. Thank you. So, one more question here. Sorry, I'm just looking at my other screen. There's a decent difference in operation cost between commercial and private registration. Is this predefined per yacht? Great question, Terry. And yes, you are absolutely correct. So this is part, when I talked about the initial costs, the setup costs, this is part of that cost. So for example, in the Majesty example, this yacht requires arena classification, okay? That is part of the charter classification that has to happen. That is very expensive. It also needs to have a set list of particular items on board for safety. Well, all yachts should really have that. But I'm just saying it is inspected for these items specifically. So all of those items need to be purchased, and all of those things have to be checked off, or we cannot get our charter permits. So when you're buying into a yacht that's commercially registered, you are going to have closing costs that are higher than you would for a personal registered vessel. Now, great news about the Majesty. It was a pre-owned yacht, which already had these permits, classifications, and inspections. And the inspection, I believe, is still good for 5 years. They just had it re-inspected. So this allows the owners to get in because these costs have already been paid. So it's, we do also look when we're making decisions on yachts to bring within our fleet, we look for these yachts that may have the previous commercial status to make things a little bit easier and less expensive for our owners buying in. Okay, any other last questions? Well, that pretty much wraps it up for the day. So thank you everyone for your engagement today. These were excellent questions. And, we are going to continue to host these live Q&As because it's really important to educate. We really believe that this is the new era of yacht ownership. And as the public and people realize that this actually is the smarter way to own, we are going to see this come, these opportunities of co-ownership come up available time and time again. So we really think in the next 5 years, we're going to see a major increase in this part of the industry. So thank you again for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you all at the next one.